sister's a therapist and I tell jokes. We both want to help all kinds of folks.
Hello, and welcome to My Sister's a Therapist. My name's Virginia Jones, and I'm a stand-up comedian, and I'm also a sister.
In fact, you're my sister. I'm Laura Ryan, licensed marriage and family therapist, and sister to the star, Virginia Jones, stand-up comedian.
I was going to have that be like the surprise at the end that we're each other's sisters.
I don't think this is going to surprise no one.
It's a very special hello. We think we have 71 subscribers, you guys.
Love you guys. Thank you so much for your support.
Everybody else is just some Johnny come lately, but you guys are the meat.
Hey, and if you're a Johnny come lately, you can easily convert. You
just
can follow us.
Just smash that subscribe button.
Are you a YouTuber now?
Yes. So smash that subscribe button and that like button. Stay subscribed because I'm going to do more unboxings of Sea Monkey accessories.
Thanks for all the hearts.
Thanks for all the hearts. Love y'all. Laura, get off of your TikTok influencer pedestal and tell me what our topic is this week.
Our topic today is man versus bear. Have you caught up on the 4Bear movement, as public offender TikTok calls it?
Yeah, I sure have. We are stoked to do this episode. One of our listeners said, "Oh, I felt like this one was coming." Like people have talked to me about how we should.
Yes, this is a hot topic on the internet.
This is in the zeitgeist, which, as we know, means time ghost.
Did we know that? I know you knew that.
So in this scenario, a man on TikTok. Do you know what man it was?
I think a lot of it caught on because of a response to the original.
So I'll tell you my version, and you can fill in with facts. So a guy makes a TikTok asking women, "Would you rather be stuck in the woods with a man or a bear?" And then women overwhelmingly say bear, and then he's real mad.
Yeah, it was a pick me move. I think the intent was for women to say, "Oh, I would always choose a man. Men are great. Bears are scary."
Right. But women have pointed out that men in practical terms, in statistic terms, are much more scary than bears. And the internet has gone wild with it.
They have. The original post is from Screenshot HQ. It was a TikTok viewed 13.5 million times as of the publishing of this article. The article is, "Would you rather be stuck with a man or a bear? The TikTok trend sparking an important conversation," by Alex Porte. The question was, it was a man on the street and he's walking around and he says, "Would you rather be stuck in a forest with a man or a bear?" The news brand took to the streets in early April, asking women to answer with their choice in this theoretical scenario. And when confronted with the prospect, the women featured responded heavily in favor of being stuck with the bear.
And keep in mind, they haven't thought about it. They haven't consulted other women about it. Their first gut reaction is it's safer to be with a bear.
Right. And this is what is called qualitative research. This sort of research is a type of research that aims to gather and analyze non-numerical data in order to gain an understanding of an individual's social reality, including understanding their attitudes, beliefs, and motivation. Thank you, Wikipedia. The problem that a lot of men are experiencing is that they are listening to women's qualitative data and then insisting that it has to be quantitative.
Right. I mean, my first thought is I currently don't know any women who've ever been mauled by a bear, but I know hundreds of women who have been assaulted and hurt by men. And I've known some women who've been killed by men, unalived, as TikTok likes to say.
Yes. So in the man on the street interviews, here's some of the quotes from women. "Bear. Man is scary." One woman replies, "Well, I've heard about bears and they don't always attack you, right?" Another woman reasons in the video, "Unless you mess with them. So maybe a bear." And another woman said, "Depends on what, but probably a bear." And then another woman said, "Oh, 100% a bear," which is terrifying to say. Another woman replied, "Definitely a bear. Some men are very scary out there."
And I was having a conversation with a friend about this, and it was a male friend. And he said, "Well, it depends if it's a good man or a bad man." And
they don't make t-shirts for that.
Well, and also there's no such thing as that. Every human being, like no one is born evil. This is not a comic book world.
Right.
But there's a certain kind of man who, if he has the opportunity and he's alone with a woman, he will be a bad actor.
Right. Have you seen the movie Promising Young Woman?
I've certainly heard a lot about it.
Someone tried to peer pressure you into watching it last night, but instead just watched it by herself and felt bad. But there was a quote from the movie. I really liked the movie. I'll just say that. I was surprised by how much I liked it because I thought it was going to be really violent and it wasn't.
Okay.
The feelings that I had were uncomfortable feelings, but they were feelings that I understood. So she says in the movie, and I quote, "It's every guy's nightmare being accused like that." Like a guy says that to her. It's every guy's nightmare being accused like that. Do you know? And then she says, "Do you know what every woman's nightmare is?"
Yeah, it's a little different. Well, it's like that bit in dating. Men's worst fear is that the woman who shows up on a Tinder date is not going to be
fat.
the woman. Yeah, she won't be the woman from the photo. She'll be fat or unattractive. And then a woman's worst fear is that her date will murder her.
So again, I choose the bear. There's
Is there a dating site where I could meet a bear? Because I don't want to meet a black bear. Those are scary, but I feel like a koala would be nice. I mean, yes, he would have chlamydia, but we could have, and he might scratch me a little bit, but like a small bear, like a sun bear, a Mongolian sun bear, for sure. Love to cuddle.
I also feel like koala, he's a cheap date. All he ever eats is eucalyptus.
Get him a eucalyptus plant and he's cool.
He's good to go. If there was a bear dating app, I hope that it would be called Bear Vault, because there's a website called Bear Vault. For those of us wanting quantitative data, since 1784, there have been 180 total fatal bear versus human conflicts. And I don't know how many women were in that, but I'm going to guess the number is small. According to the Violence Policy Center, in 2016 alone, 1 year, more than 1,800 women were murdered by men.
Okay, so my male friend that I was talking to said, but you're going to run across a lot more men than bears. And that's true.
Yes.
But still.
But I'm going to take that and I'm going to see that quote and I'm going to raise you a quote from Dad Chats on TikTok. And he says, telling women that they are wrong when you've literally asked for their opinion is kind of why we are in this situation to begin with.
And he goes on to extrapolate out the numbers and saying, look, in this ridiculous scenario where there were the same amount of bears as men and women encountered bears and men at the same rate, women would still be killed by men much more, by hundreds of percents
Right.
more.
If we installed bears in women's homes, because that's the most likely place where women will be killed, bears are still looking great.
Because a lot of time the bear's just going to go through the fridge.
I think the point is that the bear's motivation is different.
Yeah.
Bears do not think about women, human women, in the same way that human men think about human women. And that's really the problem here.
Right. Well, and one of my favorite quotes was bear, because the bear will definitely think of me as a person.
Yes. And I will have scars that are physical, and I will be able to prove to others that someone hurt me.
Right. And if I told someone that the bear attacked me, they will believe me. Right. And they will not say, well, what were you wearing?
Which is really sad. Circling back to the article I was just reading, I was asking my sister-in-law about this. I asked her the question, just for giggles. She explained in part of her post. She was like, I would rather be a bear, because if the bear attacks me and I make it out of the woods, everybody's going to believe me and have sympathy for me. But if a man attacks me and I make it out, I'm going to spend my whole life trying to get people to believe me and have sympathy for me. And that left me speechless.
And the fact is that men are being disingenuous. Like when they pretend to be shocked that women don't feel safe with them, I truly feel that a lot of them are being disingenuous, because like there was a guy who did a comedy bit, but he was like, I don't hang out with men because I don't hang out with my guy friends because I know what guys are about and I think they're going to sexually assault me.
Right.
Law. And I looked at him in that wine bar and I thought, wow, that's the funniest thing I've never heard.
That might be the least funny thing I've ever heard. You think all your friends are going to assault you? Why are they your friends?
So men know why we're scared of them, but each individual man says, oh, well, I wouldn't do that. And I don't know. Well, what if you found her unconscious by a dumpster? You wouldn't even then?
Well, and that was the whole point of Promising Young Woman. She basically, I don't want to spoiler alert anybody, but this woman had a situation that happened to her in college. And so she basically becomes a vigilante. And she goes to clubs and it's really creepy, but so also awesome. She's doing like makeup tutorials and then she just smears the makeup all over her face so she looks really drunk. And she'll just prop herself up in a club or bar and just act like she's a very drunk woman. and just sit there on her own and wait. And inevitably, a quote unquote nice young man will appear. And like every man they picked, I know they did this strategically. Everybody looks like he could be a friend or brother. And like all these men have played roles who are really likable, kind characters in other movies. So it's associations too. So that's why I think that's a big part. It's like, I don't know what your intention is. And I don't know what your motivation is, because literally any of you could be doing anything, and many of you do.
Right. Well, when the idea of date came up in our society, which was not that long ago, like date used to be like a bad night that you had, but men really were taken aback because their idea of was someone in a bush with a knife, and not
someone unknown to the person.
Not a nice guy from their neighborhood who, just really likes them.
Right. He's just trying to give her attention. So this circles into an article that I read by Liz Plank. Women are more afraid of men than bears, according to TikTok. According to data from the Pentagon, male soldiers pose a more existential threat to female service members than war itself, given that 1 in 4 women who join the military will be essayed by a man within their ranks. The fear of her fellow man, and in this case, literal colleague, is a rational one. A woman in the military is more likely to be raped by a fellow service member than to be killed by enemy fire. It's a chilling statistic, but a crucial piece of evidence that shows that for women, the call is coming from inside the house, or in this case, inside the barracks.
Well, and if you consider the fact that bears who have never essayed anyone, no matter what the Revenant says, not even allowed to serve their country in the military, it's tremendously unfair.
And the whole good guy versus bad guy thing, this leads into this for me, because it's based on what is acceptable, what is societally acceptable. It takes a very special person to be better than the prevailing morals of the time.
Well, I think that's part of it, but I think it's also, if you look at the military, it's a hierarchical thing, and women in a hierarchy are always going to be at the bottom of the pile.
Sometimes literally. So the other thing is like the reason why it's meaningless to say good guy or bad guy is it's just what society will accept. It takes a very special man to outperform base expectations. A good example is, so in Korea, women are in the 4B movement, and it's a bunch of Korean words that I don't know, but the core of it is they're not going to date men, sleep with men, have children. And the Korean government is...
Or marry men.
And the Korean government is freaking out because their birth rate is low. And we've talked about that. But the origin of this movement was the Burning Sun nightclub. And I'm going to say it in the nicest possible terms. But the nightclub found that when attractive young women were available for the customers in the nightclub, they spent more money. And they were like, well, how do we make more attractive young women available? And eventually they were just, they were roofing their own customers.
Right. They were picking them out ahead of time, roofing them, and then leaving them in a room to be assaulted. Yeah.
And not every man who walked in there, I'm sure there's a percentage of men who didn't take advantage, but because it was normalized and men understood that this was what was available, like probably hardly any of those men would say, I'm going to wait in a bush with a knife. But if there's an unconscious woman here, well, what am I supposed to do?
Of course, I'm going to assault her.
Of course. The men who go to that nightclub are men that they know that that's what's going on, and they're already kind of like pre-filtered, right?
Right. And like apparently they made a whole menu of women where they took pictures of these unconscious women and said, you can have this one for this much money or that one for that much money. It's super creepy and super terrible.
Like those men don't think of themselves as bad guys.
Exactly. Like the guys in this movie, I was thinking like some of the things they were doing to this woman, I was thinking, well, I've had that done to me, but I didn't think of it as SA, but it was, right?
And let me tell you guys, when we have to look back on our lives, like when men have to examine like everything that's ever happened to them and everything they've ever done and not feel great about it, we also don't feel great.
Right. Exactly. I mean,
it's not a win for us.
Right. But essentially,
that's okay.
You're not doing much better than the guys in the Burning Sun Club. No. So Liz Plank, circling back, she says the bear versus man video makes us face an uncomfortable truth. Patriarchy makes men go after their own kind. Even the language around mating and dating that likens men pursuing women as, quote, hunting their prey, unquote, is evolutionarily unsound. There are enough predators that women have to worry about without the potential of one of their own turning against them. As the French anthropologist Francois Herichier once said, it's not human nature that makes men eliminate or hurt women. It's a system called patriarchy that legitimizes and justifies the violence. And while it may be depressing, it also means it's changeable.
Right. And when we talk about PC culture, we're talking a lot about one quote from Jerry Seinfeld about how PC culture is ruining comedy. And like, honestly, if you feel that way, quit comedy. We don't need you. But when we talk about women this way, when we joke about, date bait and underage women, like this language normalizes the behavior. It doesn't directly cause the behavior, but if you joke around with your friends about how a woman's, you're going to do this to a woman or that, blah, 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 it does kind of dehumanize her and makes it feel okay.
She's no longer a person, right? She's an object. So the bear experiment shouldn't make us mad. It should make men pause. The more we can be curious about the experiences of women under patriarchy rather than question them, the better positioned we are to modify the systems that harm us all. The fact that this dialogue about gender-based violence could be uncomfortable is what makes it most imperative. Melanie Hamlett, this is not the woods, but it's the Appalachian Trail, so I'm going to call it the woods. She made an article called The Scariest Encounters Women Have on the Appalachian Trail, and that they are with men. So she just kind of took some experiences that I've added. Later, while hiking alone, a random guy aggressively probed this woman about where she was going and who she was with. They found her 200 miles down the trail. Then he found her 200 miles down the trail and threatened to come into her tent while she slept. Julia says, I physically ran into a bear, and I would take that over running into a crazy drunk dude any day.
And again, he didn't plan it. He just had an opportunity, and he's like, wow, there's not a lot of people around, and yet I'm here with this woman. That's interesting.
Right. So
he doesn't think of himself as a bad guy. And like, he's just someone who enjoys nature and assaulting women.
He's just a guy who likes going into women's tents while they sleep.
Yeah. Why are you being such a prude about it?
So why do you think about women in this way? There's an article called How Our Brains Turn Women into Objects by Piercarlo Valdesolo. It turns out that there's more than one kind of objectification. So there was a study done where men see shots of women as compared with face shots. So shots of their body versus just their face. Women are judged to be less intelligent, less likable, less ambitious, and competent. So objectification might not lead to perceptions of women as inanimate objects, but as different kinds of humans, ones that are capable of feeling, but not thinking. It seems that when we see the bodies, we tend to see potential victims.
A comic who's a friend of mine and who's very, very brilliant, Marsha Belsky, had an Instagram project called the Headless Women Project. And it was movie posters where only body parts of women were pictured. And she never had a face. And yes, it's a lot of comedy movies. It's some thrillers. But when you line them all up, especially like through the 80s and 90s, it's shocking how many pictures, like how many images, like promotional images, are men interacting with a woman who does not have a face, who is only body parts, series of body parts.
Right.
And it's super easy to dehumanize that because she's not human.
Right. I mean, I remember I saw this project and there was one thing where it was a woman's legs hanging out of a dumpster, and it was an ad for something. Like, what what are we doing? So you may wonder what that's called. There's actually a term for it. It's called facism. And basically, facism is the tendency in marketing and advertising for men to have their face included in the marketing and advertising, and women to have parts of their body included. So you might ask yourself, does that affect the way that we think about women? Well, in fact, according to a study, it does. Facism has significant effects on perceptions of mind as people depicted by a body prominent photographs are seen again as less intelligent, ambitious, competent, and likable. Simply focusing on someone's physical appearance can also reduce perceived competence in mind, extending to decreased perceptions of pain sensitivity, emotion, and even moral status.
Right. And I've experienced this in my friends group. I have a friend who developed very early, had big boobs very early. It's not easy. But my experience is that men sexualize her and they project their sexual feelings about her just because of how her body looks.
Right.
And it's terrifying. And like, I've had to physically defend her, from strange men like hugging her or touching her in public because they're like, oh, I want that. Therefore, she probably wants me as well.
Well, and also her body is just, like a light pole. It's part of the public space and we can do with it what we want.
Back to the bear versus man conversation specifically, a really not fun thing is a lot of the responses for men who are mad about the answer. And just a lot of things on Twitter, like men are posting pictures of dead and mutilated people and said, this is the woman who chooses bear. You see how that doesn't make you look great, right?
You're sort of proving our point quite literally in this moment. Research shows brains seeing men as people and women as body parts. There's an article by Steve Smith. So they hooked people up and looked at their brains. A new study suggests that these two distinct cognitive processes also are in play with our basic physical perceptions of men and women, and importantly, provide clues as to why women are often the targets of sexual objectification. The research, published in the European Journal of Social Psychology, found in a series of experiments that participants processed images of men and women in very different ways. When presented with images of men, perceivers tended to rely more on global cognitive processing, the mental method in which a person is perceived as a whole. Meanwhile, images of women were more often thought of as a subject of local cognitive processing or objectifying perception of something as an assemblage of its various parts. The study is the first to link cognitive processes to objectification theory, says Sarah Gervais, assistant professor of psychology at UNL.
So it's always been dangerous for women to be alone with a strange man or, alone with a man at all. This conversation brought to mind a film, The House of Mirth. It's from the Gilded Age. It's a book by Evelyn Waugh, but the movie came out in the 2000s. So Gillian Anderson is this very beautiful woman of low birth who starts trying to work her way through high society. And she's, getting invited to parties. People like to have her around. And then in one scene, she finds herself in a drawing room with a man with no witnesses. And even though nothing happens in that scene, her reputation is ruined because the assumption is that something happened.
The same thing happens in Bridgerton. Okay.
Oh. And that's the end of the story.
She has to marry her perp, basically, because they were found to be in a garden together after dark.
This has always been a thing in society that it's dangerous for a woman to be alone with a man, even if it's a man she knows, even if it's a man in her group of friends.
Well, and everyone was like poo-pooing the vice president for
right, for saying
never being alone with women. But like, man, fair.
It does reduce a lot of problems. I mean, the problem with that statement was that he wouldn't go to dinner with a woman. And
I think that's fine. You don't need to be you're a married man. Why do you need to be going to dinner alone with another woman?
So in the business world,
never heard of it.
The problem with this is, and he's a politician. I don't know if you know this, but the VP of the United States is a politician.
Oh,
and that's business. But like there has been a problem after #MeToo. A lot of spoiled baby men said, okay, well, I'm just never going to do anything with women. I'm not going to invite women on.
Oh, so we're going to exclude women from the business world. Yeah. Well, and then that conversation ends. Like we're not allowed to go with women on business trips. We're not allowed to go to dinner with women. That's not great either. Just try to have dinner with a woman and not try to bang her. How about that? I think this might be an impossible dream. I don't know. I really am not sure.
Women can't be both equal to men and given the same opportunities as men. And also the only way to avoid being victimized with men is to avoid them. Like we can't have both.
I mean, we can just we can go off on our own side and do our own stuff. I don't know. That's what I've been doing. So circling back to the bear conversation, yes. I think it's a layered conversation. It's got a lot of pieces to it. Because I think, number one, because of the objectification of women, because of the standards that we have in our society about women, we are more threatened by men than any other group, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's fix that, because you're talking about solutions. Let's just fix that. I think in the meantime, we should not meet with men on our own ever.
Okay. All right.
There is no easy solution.
Yeah.
It's a complicated problem. But I think step one is having conversations like this where we allow ourselves to take in the reality.
The first thing, like when men started pushing back on the bear idea, one of the first responses is like, well, would you like your wife or your daughter to be alone in the woods with a man or a bear? Which is what always happens. You can't humanize women until you make it your own child. And then the guys were like, well, what if it's a good guy?
They said, you don't have a choice. It's just a guy. Every man I've seen has said, well, then absolutely not.
Then bear.
Circling back to Melanie Hamlett, Beth, a 39-year-old consultant, hiked with a seemingly cool guy for 10 days before he started to attach to her like glue, hovering over her constantly after Beth reminded him that she was in a committed relationship with a guy back home, because of course it wouldn't just be, I don't like you. That's not good enough.
Right. You have to have the boyfriend defense.
Exactly.
You have to belong to someone else.
Right. It has to be about men ultimately. Even after she said that, he started making comments on her appearance and how attractive she was. One day, he walked up on her changing clothes in one of the shelters, despite her warning him. He saw her full frontal naked and then got defensive when she was upset with him. Quote, I was completely humiliated, yet I convinced myself it wasn't a big deal, end quote, she says. She eventually decided to ditch him for good. Afraid of his reaction to her rejection, Beth waited until they were at a hostel in town with the safety of people around her to break the news. His face literally blackened, she says.
And he was a nice guy. He was her friend.
He was a great friend. He just liked her. Yeah. He just liked her. Here's a small step. Be aware when you're acting like a creep.
Right.
Pay attention to other people's reactions to you.
How about this? Every guy, if you don't like the bear answer, every single guy, try not to sexually assault anyone for a month.
Give it 90 days.
90 days. See if you can not do it.
I think step one is be aware of what SA is, educate yourself on it, and do a really good job of keeping yourself, like the former VP, out of situations that could cause problems.
A married friend of mine has a policy, and he's a man, and he is my friend, but he has a policy that he doesn't text a woman after 10 p.m. Like, even if it's a work thing.
That's a great rule of thumb, because why would you? Why do you need to be doing that? You don't need to be doing that.
Even if my intentions are totally innocent and it's a totally legitimate communication, I don't even want the appearance of illegitimacy. I don't even want to cause a moment of doubt in a woman's mind or in my wife's mind. So he just doesn't do it.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
It can wait till morning. If you're wondering if your behavior with women is appropriate or inappropriate, do a little play act with yourself and say, well, what if this was a straight man friend of mine? Would I walk into a straight man while he was changing? Would I tell a straight man how attractive I thought he was?
Would you ask a straight man if he had a girlfriend?
Would you give a straight man a friendly pat on the bottom?
Would you touch his body without his consent?
When you're walking through a room with him, would you put your hand just in the small of his back just to help him, like guide him?
So, yeah, I mean, this conversation comes up a lot with men's fear of gay men.
Yeah.
Because men who are heterosexual think that gay men are going to treat them the way that they treat cishet women. And they don't want that because they know inherently that it's not okay. So, yeah, if we're taking a page from Promising Young Woman, would you, if you saw a drunk man kind of falling over, would you take him back to your apartment and offer him another drink and then massage his shoulders and see if he wants to talk and about your dreams for a minute?
I've done it many times.
Yeah, you're a different breed. We're not going to include
I used to
in the stats.
What I like to do is I carry a wheelbarrow around in my car because sometimes the guy is bigger than me.
I hope that that's not true.
I did one time. I had a boyfriend who had a serious drinking problem and probably still does. Bless him. And we'd been out, and I got him in my car. And by the time I got back to my place, he was unconscious and he could not be moved. And I was like, I'm a big lady. I'm almost 6 feet tall, and I cannot move this person out of my car. So he had to sleep in my car, I put a Post-it note on his chest that he should call me in the morning when he got up.
But did you essay him while he was in the car?
I did not essay him.
Okay.
Didn't even want to.
Huh.
But yeah, sad truth is, even if a bear in the woods kills me, I know he's not going to essay me first because he's not into that.
So yes, why do women say the bear? These are the reasons women say the bear.
I would also prefer to be with a lizard, not a Komodo dragon. Because
I was going to say, can't he bite you or something? I don't know.
Well, Komodo and monitor lizard, Komodo is, I think, a kind of monitor lizard. I would not want to be alone with a Komodo dragon because I know he wants to eat me and then walk away and wait for me to die and then eat my decaying flesh. But a monitor lizard, yes.
Anyway, there's a lot.
Let's do all animals. Giraffe, yes.
You can spook a giraffe. I don't know.
I would have to spook him in the direction of me.
The reason I like the bear is that if I just pretend to be dead or throw ding-dongs at him, he'll leave me alone.
Right. If I make enough noise and bang a pan, he'll go away. A man will only go away if you bang a pan if there's another man around to perceive it. Always have a pan. Hashtag always a pan.
So
any of the hoofed animals, goat, horse, pony, always yes.
Cows are actually kind of scary because they actually kill more people than any other animal. So maybe not a cow.
Maybe not a lion. Lion, tiger, the big cats, maybe no. Mountain lion, maybe no. Bobcat, yes. I think I could take a bobcat. And also he's cute.
I could take one. I'll take a fox. I'll be in the woods with a fox.
A dozen foxes. Don't give a crap.
I don't know about possums because I have a personal issue there.
Coyotes. I'll take a couple coyotes. Maybe not a whole pack, but one coyote for sure. Way safer. How many adult people are killed by coyotes? Not that many.
So what can we do about this?
Infinite number of chickens. Don't care.
Well, as a person who recently watched Jurassic Park, I'm going to say no to chickens because that was some scary stuff.
Okay.
Any kind of lizard or reptile, I'm not sure. So here's the thing about bears.
Mm-hmm.
Bears view me as human and understand what human means, and they see me as a whole person. Human men and monitor lizards, maybe not.
So I think if we can take anything from this, like what we would ask men to do is when women tell you they'd rather be in the forest with a bear, take that in. Think about it. Think about why that is. That's all we want.
I don't know if that's all we want.
That's step one.
I think that's part of it. What I want is for men to start changing their behavior and being more conscious and more cognizant of the threat that they as a group pose and just being more sensitive to that.
I will be alone in the woods with up to a dozen capybaras. I even would feel okay about a gorilla, honestly.
Yeah, I think I'd feel okay about a gorilla. Again, mammal.
Yeah.
I'm okay with other mammals.
Laura, what are your final thoughts on this topic?
If you see a woman in the woods, here's what I would say. If you see a woman in the woods, look down, look away, pretend she's not there.
Pretend she's a bear.
Actually, yeah, pretend she's a bear. Throw ding-dongs at her. She'll probably like it.
But not your ding-dong.
No, the chocolate variety. That's what I think that was somebody who said that on TikTok. They're like, if I could just throw ding-dongs at a man, leave me alone. I would just do that. Any variety of snack cake will work. Virginia, what are your final thoughts on this quite difficult topic?
My final thoughts are, just take in the information that you've been given that women would rather be alone with a bear than a man. Think about why that is. Laura, do you have a listener review for us this week?
This one is from one of our Bostonian listeners. C. Orlando Magic says, informative and hilarious, an absolute winner. Laura and Virginia are hysterical and simultaneously informative. It takes a lot to keep my attention, and these ladies achieve it with their wit, real life application of experience and knowledge, and valuable mental health information. Laughter.
The ADHD in me honors the ADHD
in you. Absolutely. Laughter is most certainly the best medicine, and teaming it with the latest and greatest data I can actually use in my personal and professional life, bar none. I highly recommend this podcast, all caps. Thank you, C. Orlando Magic. We appreciate you.
Thanks a lot. Laura, where can people find you on the internet should they wish to do so?
If people want to be bummed out by me on the internet, you can follow my TikTok at I am Laura Ryan. You can go to my website, lauraryan.org. If you'd like to stay connected to the show, you can find our website, mysistersatherapist.com, or you can follow us on Instagram at mysistersatherapist. If you want to reach out and talk to us and just say hello, my latest obsession is starting a women's retreat. If you'd be interested in finding out more about that or telling us what you want, that would be cool. You can email us at hello@mysistersatherapist.com. If you'd like to hire us to speak at your women's conference, mental health conference, leadership event, wellness event, educational seminar, retreat, or workshop, hire us at mysistersatherapist.com. Virginia, where can people find you on those interwebs?
You can find me at bedinia.com, and my TikTok is Bedinia, and my Instagram is Bedinia, and it's just all hooked to a nonsense word that is me. And lastly, in the immortal words of Billy Ray Valentine, Capricorn, we can make it, baby.
Me and you. Bye-bye.
Bye.